It is Wednesday, 23rd of March. I forgot March. Wednesday, March the 23rd, comic book day, and what a comic book day it is. Pretty big release came out today, and we will save that book for last this week, which means we are starting with Hawkeye issue number 5. Pretty simple issue. This one, we get more of Kate Bishop's backstory as in the last issue, she witnessed her father beat up a guy. She doesn't know why yet, so she goes investigating. She knows that her father is lying to her because her father says nothing's wrong. So she goes investigating into her father's work or day job or whatever, and finds that her father is a bad man. Her father works with criminals in order to move people out of their homes. And Kate learns to trust only herself and to rely on only herself because she figures all of the other people in her life are just going to lie to her, which explains, a bit of how why Kate is so the way she is right now. Meanwhile, following his failure to capture the kids or to rescue the kids in the last issue, Clint tries one more time in order to stop not Hydra. Yeah, I guess it's Hydra. Stop Hydra from kidnapping them again or re-kidnapping them from S.H.I.E.L.D. And accidentally screws things up in a big way. But that's not the end of the story, because that'd be a really depressing ending for things. So luckily there's still one more issue left in this arc. But other than that, as a middle issue, not much going on right now besides what I already showed you. So yeah, the Kate backstory fleshes out her character today, which is what backstory is kind of supposed to do. And we see Clint totally in the present, trying still to rescue the kids and make it up with Kate, and see how that goes by the end of the issue. Next up, we have Hellcat, issue number 4. Issue number 4. Yeah, wow, I did it. I remembered. Hellcat, issue number 4. Another not just kind of their issue and kind of standard, but plot-wise, no really big breaks. Patsy is in her 4th job in this series, or I think 3rd, I forget. Anyway, Patsy has a new job at the beginning of this book. She's working at the front desk of Tara's tattoo parlor. Tara, of course, being from the Howard the Duck series. And Howard the Duck even makes an appearance in this book, where he gives a pep talk to Patsy about getting the rights to her stories back. On her way to do that and consult with Jen, who is Jen She-Hulk, the lawyer, Patsy gets ambushed by the bag lady from last issue, who she very quickly dispatches and then summons another hero or asks another hero for help in order to take out Cassiola, who is in control of the whole villain thing right now. So that's pretty much the plot that happens, but Hellcat is sold on its jokes, and there are some great ones. First, kind of the first page, or second page really, got a really cool Tinder joke. Patsy's trying out, well, not Tinder exactly, but a dating app that is pretty much Tinder, and finds that all the guys are kind of assholes or losers, to put it nicely. After that, we just get a lot of kind of background jokes. Everyone calling Cassiola, not Enchantress, because their characters are very similar, but it's implied that she's kind of a C-list Enchantress, which she, I guess, gets on her nerves. And just lots of really cool little background jokes. So, like over here, her wine goblet says Mommy's Sippy Cup on it, which is neat. And there are lots of just little jokes in the art like that. That's another really good one that happens. I don't know. There's lots of little details, lots of little funny things going on in this book that, and if I just show them to you, don't have the same effect that it would if you're reading the story and you find them for yourself and everything's cool and whatever. But yeah, still really much enjoying Hellcat. Still really lighthearted, still really funny. I like how in this book we get to see a more competent Patsy than we've seen in some previous issues. We don't actually get to see her fight, but we see the effects of her fighting and are fully aware that Patsy's not a Patsy, that she can take care of herself. She is a very competent hero, which is nice because we kind of got the impression that she wasn't, I feel, in the previous issues. But in this, we see her at her best, kind of, and then, yeah, so that's fun. Funny book, fun characters. Still, everyone, even the villains, are really likable. So, in the same vein as Squirrel Girl and Howard the Duck, sort of the lighter side of Marvel Comics. Next up, we have Lois and Clark, issue number 6. And this seems to be a turning point in the story. Lots of little plot beats happen here. So we open with Lois and Clark discovering that Superman's secret identity in the New 52 universe has been revealed. So stuff from a few months back are finally having a big effect on this comic book, as Lois and Clark now have to stay even deeper undercover so that nobody recognizes that Clark has the same face as Superman. Meanwhile, Superman has to, or Clark, I'm just going to keep on calling him Clark instead of Superman, but Clark has to try and locate Lois's editor, who was kidnapped by Intergang in the last issue. Clark does end up finding her, and it's pretty cool how he does. He works with Lois. Lois calls her editor's cell phone, which has a special ringtone that then Superman, using his super hearing, can hear, which leads him right to her. And I think that's pretty neat, seeing Lois and Clark work together like that. Clark does end up rescuing Kara, the editor, but unfortunately not soon enough, because she does end up revealing that Author X is Lois, which then puts a giant target on Lois's back. So Lois ends up being kidnapped, and before rushing to their aid, Clark has to stop this bridge demolition thing that got entirely out of control, that in a kind of like a contrived way, but just putting something in Superman's way, that he has to, because he's Superman, even though he's not the Superman of this world, because he is a Superman, he has to do the right thing and, save people, even if it's inconvenient for him personally. And then the biggest kind of thing that happens this issue is, as John and Lois are kidnapped by Intergang, John being Superman's son, John finds out that he might not be a completely normal human. So the thing that everyone kind of predicted would happen ends up happening with John getting some of his father's powers and having to learn how to use them under extreme duress. So yeah, Lois and Clark, still one of the better Superman issues, like one of the better Superman series, I think, in the past few years. So I'm just really enjoying it. Still not as good as American Alien, but better than the last actual Superman comic I read. So somewhere in between those titles. Moving right on to Secret 6, issue number 7. Or 12, I don't know why I said 7, issue number 12. And this continues to, Gail Simone's perfect at it. This continues to really toe the line between really dark and really funny. So we begin this issue kind of with the cold open, but like a really enjoyable, funny cold open. Scandal Savage just getting married to these two people, I forget their name, and they're looking for a sperm donor in order to have children. And Scandal suggests that the sperm donor come from a perfect male specimen she knows, namely Catman. And of course, Catman and Batgirl are following the plot from last issue, involving saving Strix from Lady Shiva over here, who has already taken out most of the Secret 6 team, as well as a few cops who are not so likable. They're the same cops from previous issues of Secret 6 who are kind of pigs, who I think Catman had to beat up a couple times. So in this issue, there's a big fight between Strix, Porcelain, Catman, and Batgirl, going up against Shiva. and because Lady Shiva is Lady Shiva ends up kicking their ass, and Strix has to make a decision of whether or not to go with Shiva. Shiva wants to recruit Strix to the League of Assassins, and it's up to Strix whether or not to go, because it's not like anybody can stop Lady Shiva from just taking her anyway. And this is all really sad. It's a sad plot. A lot of the characters are sad. We see that for the first time in his career, Catman, by letting whatever happens, we see, well, by letting Strix essentially get captured, we see how Catman finally feels for the first time in his career like an actual bad guy. So there's lots of pathos in here, but we also, right after Catman admits that it's the first time he felt like a bad guy, we have this panel with Shiva and Strix in a limousine, and next to Strix is her garden gnome, which she just really, really likes, and is like a teddy bear to her or something. And so this book just excellently balances, just really deftly flips between really kind of emotional and really deep, and let's have a joke with a garden gnome in it. And it doesn't feel cheap. The jokes don't cheapen the darkness, and the darkness doesn't sour the jokes at all. It's just really, really good storytelling. Expertly balances those tones. And yeah, it's really thrilling. I'm really enjoying this book. It feels unique within the DC roster. It feels pretty unique just in my pull. And of all the comics I read, I guess the closest other thing would be something like Injection, in that it balances these kind of darker plot elements with these really kind of lighthearted, funny, and surreally funny. Not even just dark humor, although there is dark humor, but also actual just kind of absurd humor. And it does that job really well, and I'm really enjoying it. And at the end of this book, we get a new-ish character, a character we've been introduced to, but who's making kind of a fresh face, let's say. And their introduction is perfect. It's a bit sudden, maybe a bit rushed, but the actual illustration and the visuals behind it is just perfect. So I don't want to spoil who it is, but just a really enjoyable little thing at the end to keep us going. Secret Six, amazing book, heavily recommended. Next up, we have Batman and Robin Eternal, issue number 25, the penultimate issue, only one to go, for this, what is it, a maxi series, I guess is the terminology. And I just want to compliment this cover. I think it's a really neat cover. Obviously, taking a lot from the Glen murder kind of visual language. I guess I can't remember the word I actually want to say. Visual pinpoint maybe is a closer word. With the two, man, woman in blood. The blood is the bat signal, or it's the Batman logo, and it's Harper Row instead of Bruce Wayne. But very evocative of kind of that classic piece of Batman mythos. Just a good cover overall that I wanted to bring up. Otherwise, this issue feels a lot like the last issue. Definitely a continuation, almost a repeat. The big, the second page spread, or the second spread in this book, is pretty much just a repeat of the spread from last issue, with all of the Bat family fighting all over the world, except this time instead of kids, they're fighting the backup orphans that Mother sent out in the last issue. Meanwhile, in the Arctic, Dick Grayson is trying to convince Azrael to not kill Mother, to, fight against Mother, but to show her mercy, because if Azrael ends up killing Mother, it just means that Mother's correct in her whole, there can't be weakness and the only answer is to kill sort of thing, which Dick does not want. Meanwhile, also in the Arctic, Mother tries to convince Harper Row to kill Cassandra Cain, and, of course she's not going to do it, because, there's really no reason for her to just switch to Mother's side at this point. But what is good about this little scene, even though it seems kind of pointless plot-wise, is it, once again, kind of solidifies Mother's philosophy. That Mother as much as she claims to want to save the world and cares about people, sees people as tools. She sees people as tools that can break, become useless, and then need to be dispatched. Which, of course, makes her a hypocrite. It means that she doesn't really care. She cares about her own goals and her own ends, and not what people actually want or what's actually best for other people, if she thinks that they can be disposed of once they break. So just really solid characterization now, or characterization there. We get a really good moment with Midnighter at the end of the in the middle-ish of the book, where Midnighter ends up taking control or taking on all of the orphans, so that the rest of the Bat family can turn off the Ithacus machine. And it's a big hero moment with Midnighter just kind of easily taking care of these people who were giving the rest of the Bat family so much trouble. Just, I think, one of those super cool fist pump, big hero moments, which is really fitting at the kind of the end point of this maxi series. But of course, we have one issue left. The big confrontation with Mother is still ahead, with Dick and Mother and Harper and Cass and basically, I guess, everybody else, all the big important players all reaching their end in the next issue. So, next and last issue. So, yeah, that's that. These previous two issues, again, I feel this is pretty much just issue 24 all over again. But we get some pretty good moments in there, so can't complain entirely. Can't say it was entirely bad, if not a little redundant. Moving on, we have... moving on in the same vein, we have Grayson, which gets a new editorial team. In this issue, Tom King is being replaced by Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly for writing duty. And we've had a few different artists on the book. And of course, artists are important, but I mean, I'm more of a writer guy, I feel. Not to say, of course, that artists don't have a contribution, but overall, and I'm showing my hand here, I guess, overall, I feel the books I enjoy a lot more because of the writing, because of the plotting and the characterization, more so than the visual storytelling. So whenever a writer changes on a book, I feel that has a little more impact than when an artist changes. Although, of course, there are some artist-writers and some writer-artist teams that, work together really well, better than they work apart. But anyway, like Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, I feel work way better together than they do apart. But with Tom King, I feel he's a kind of a singular voice. He's done well with this book. He's done well with Vision. So, yeah, him leaving the book, I feel, has really big impact. Although I feel that Lansing and Kelly actually do a pretty good job of picking up that slack, of picking up where Tom King left the story and kind of making it their own. It feels kind of like they're just finishing this story for King. Like they're not adding a lot of their own flourishes or elements or anything like that. They're just kind of bringing it on home, which, is probably not the worst idea, considering that King has set this up pretty well, or really well, rather, I want to say. So the Syndicate, the kind of anti-spies that Helena Bertinelli hired to take out Dick and the Tiger, have betrayed her and now are out to kill her. But luckily, because Dick is such a nice guy, he and Tiger end up saving the day, or at least intervening, in order to try and save the day and save Helena Bertinelli's life from the Syndicate. So we get a big fight between Dick, Tiger, and the Syndicate, which is just really well done. We finally get a nice quip, a nice bit of humor from Tiger, who's been kind of stubborn about that in previous issues. So I think that's one endearing thing that these new writers do, is they do finally give us that moment of Tiger kind of telling a joke and lightening up a bit. Meanwhile, we have we have Dr. Nets try and rescue Helena after she's been beaten, and she becomes privy to the big plan that her father, whose name I forget, but the guy behind Leviathan, wants to come back, and he plans to take over a body, to basically be reborn inside another body, and lead Spiral back to Leviathan. That's his big plan. So as Dick and Tiger are fighting the anti-spies, as more and more things go down with some of the students getting in on the action, fighting off Agent 8, who is back in the picture. Midnighter also makes a big hero appearance in this book, kind of following, just this week, following a bit redundant with Batman and Robin Eternal, having kind of Midnighter come in to save the day again. It just feels weird. I wonder how much these teams talk to each other about having Midnighter be the big savior guy, because it's weird that it happens in both books this week. But anyway, that's kind of where we are. We have spies versus spies, and it ends with the two Nets sisters, Agent Zero and Dr. Nets, kind of fighting over who gets to inhabit the father, which body does the father end up taking over, and I don't want to spoil the very end of this book because, spoilers. Read it for yourself. So like I said, I think the new writers do a really good job of taking over from Tom King. I don't know, considering we have the rebirth thing going on in the next few months, I don't know if they'll be able to kind of start and tell their own story before June when the reboot happens. I guess it depends how much longer this arc will go on. But yeah, I feel confident that this team can at least take this arc to the end and do a good job and do it justice. So I'll still be reading and just waiting, I guess, to see what Tom King does next. He's probably going to be on Batman in June, and I'm excited for that. And speaking of Batman, our last issue this week is, of course, Batman number 50. The end of the Super Heavy arc, which sees Bruce Wayne return back into the role of Batman. And he gets a fancy new costume to go with it. I really like this costume. It's classic, not a lot of big new elements, but I like how Capullo has taken kind of the emblem that he used for Jim Gordon's suit with the black on the yellow, because I like the yellow elements of Batman's costume. I like how the utility belt's usually yellow. I like the yellow oval that sometimes the Bat emblem is on. And so I like a way how he kept the yellow in the costume without making it kind of distracting and without taking away from kind of the overall shape of the Bat logo, that he found a way to kind of balance the two. I like the purple cape, which kind of harkens back to the purple gloves from Detective Comics number 27, from like Batman's earliest appearances. And the whole thing seems like a fusion between the Zero Year outfit that Capullo designed and kind of the Jim Lee Batman outfit that Jim Lee designed for the whole New 52 relaunch. Just, I think, a really neat costume that adds some kind of brighter colors to Batman without taking away the overall shape or color scheme at all. Just, I think, really neat costume. And this is just such a great entrance again, like reintroducing Bruce Wayne. It feels very Batman. I'm getting kind of a year one vibe from the whole scene where he breaks into the mobster's house and, you've eaten well, sort of thing. So just really, really cool way to reintroduce Batman. And this whole book does a great job of doing that. So plot-wise, of course, we have Bruce Wayne becoming Batman again. And he does so because Bloom has pretty much completely devastated Gotham City. Jim Gordon is on death's door. He is bleeding internally, and so he's kind of out of commission in a way. Mr. Bloom has also taken control of all of the kind of Gotham, all of the Bat armors. So the police try to make one last stand with all the Bat armors, and Bloom just flips that on its head. Makes them attack and destroy even more of Gotham. And then, yeah, so Mr. Bloom seems unstoppable, and then this happens. And then Batman returns and takes the fight to Bloom. And Bloom, by the way, at this point, is just super creepy looking. Well, he's pulling off an Akira. So Bloom's big plan is to make this kind of strange matter star or something, this strange energy star to kind of destroy all of Gotham, which is just very visually reminiscent of Akira and Neo Tokyo and the big explosion and all that. But yeah, Bloom at this point just looks so creepy. Looks like a tree with bodies hanging off of it, like lynching. Like lynching in the South or something. It's very reminiscent of those sorts of images, which is very deep, very just very potent imagery, I feel. That makes him super creepy, super violent, and scary. We also have Duke Thomas really jumping into the role of Robin. He has this really great moment where he's talking to Daryl about seeing his parents again for the first time since the Joker attacks, and realizing that they're gone, that there's no rescuing his parents, but that doesn't mean that he has to give up on being Robin. That even though his parents are gone, Gotham still needs him. And so we have Duke Thomas fighting back against Bloom. We have Batman taking the fight to Bloom. And it's amazing. It's just great to see Bruce back in action. And Alfred notes how because of the Dionysium or whatever, because of the thing that made Bruce Wayne not die at the beginning of this arc, that all of his scars are healed physically. So Batman is at a peak he has never before been reached as Bruce Wayne. That he is now Batman without all the physical scarring and physical toil and trouble of his previous years of Batman and training, all that. So this is a better, faster, stronger version of Bruce Wayne Batman that we've ever seen before. And he is being put through the gambit almost immediately. So before going after Bloom, he has to go after all of the Bat armors that the police made, and Mr. Bloom kind of repaints them in order to be more reminiscent of the villains. So we have a Poison Ivy Bat armor, a Penguin Bat armor. I'm guessing this is kind of a Bane Bat armor, a Killer Croc Bat armor, a Harley Quinn Bat armor. So just kind of really cool stuff there. Jim Gordon, of course, gets back in on the action and tries to help. There's, at one point, fighting a giant Joker armor. Just everything in this book is... It's a finale. This is a finale of a book. It's Scott Snyder's last big arc on this book. He has one more issue left on this run of Batman, and he's pulling out all the stops. You have Bloom grow to this giant size. This happens. There's kind of Batman in a bat armor, just giant bat mech punching Mr. Bloom in the face. So Snyder and Capullo really just pulling out all of these stops here in this fight against Mr. Bloom. And by the end, and what's amazing about this book is by the end of this book, it's the same. We return to the status quo. By the end of this book, we have a Batman, a Robin, and a Commissioner Gordon. And they're all the people we expect them to be. Duke Thomas is Robin, but Bruce Wayne is Batman again. Jim Gordon is Commissioner Gordon again. In that he's not Batman, but he's an ally of Batman. He's helping Batman out. So just everything like that's amazing. I think that Snyder. And what's great, because it's comic books. It's a medium where things have to remain the same. And what Scott Snyder is so great at doing over the course of his arcs are removing things so far away and taking things so kind of out of control and raising the stakes and making these new stories that at the end, when things return to normal, it's a big revelation. It's the wheel making a full cycle again. And it feels great to have things back to normal because we've seen how far Snyder can take it in another direction, in a direction that we don't want it to see go as an audience. And so that's his big talent. That is what Snyder is great at. That's why he's great at writing comic books. And besides just that understanding of structure, I feel Snyder really understands the character, and he ends up doing the thing that he always ends up doing at the end of his arcs on Batman, where Snyder just kind of tells you the point of the story and gives you the thesis of this arc. Just kind of as a character spell it out in so many words and essays. Like, this whole page is just Scott Snyder saying, this is the point of the story. And it's probably more meta than Snyder's ever been. It's Snyder talking through Jim Gordon, saying that it was a bad idea for Jim Gordon to be Batman. I was not prepared to do this. And how Batman serves not to fix our problems, but to show us that we can fix our own problems. That, what does he say here? Batman fights our nightmares to teach us to fight the real terrors by the light of day. Batman believes in us. That's the reason power levels, blah, 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 story stuff. Batman believes in us. Not because Batman can save us, but because he believes that we can save ourselves. He's the superhero who sees in us the heroes we can be, which is the point of Batman, that Batman is a quote-unquote normal guy. He's not an alien. He's not a god. Batman's a normal guy who inspires us to also be the best we can be, to reach that peak humanity that we can be for ourselves, which is just, I think, a fantastic understanding of the character and a fantastic, inspiring interpretation of the Batman character. So yeah, just as a final arc, as a capstone, basically, to this final really long arc of Batman where he completely changed everything up, only to return him to normal. Scott Snyder just blows this out of the park. This book pulls out all the stops. We have Batman versus Bloom, Batman versus these armors. You have a giant mecha Batman fight. It basically turns into anime at the end, where you have the giant mech fight in front of the city with the big energy orb exploding everything. It feels in a way as far away from Batman as you can get, but retains the soul, is so close to that just primal essence of Batman, where I'm kind of at a loss for words. It's not a loss for words, it's I want to say so much that I will never finish saying things, so it's best for me to just stop and to say, read this on your own, pick up the trade, pick up the previous 50 issues of Batman that Scott Snyder has written. It is all fantastic, and we have one issue left in this run. And it's his farewell in a way. I'm really excited for that because I think, of all of the Batman I've read, Snyder has, I think, been the most consistently good, has shown us different sides of Batman while always bringing it back to what Batman is at the core. And it's just really some of the best Batman stuff ever put to paper. Of course, Greg Capullo deserves his due too for just his amazing visual storytelling, his amazing art on this book, making things creepy, making things bright, making the fight scenes visceral and engaging and just heart-pounding and everything. So yeah, Batman 50 is a perfect ending to this arc. That again, where the real artistry comes from, returning everything to the status quo, being the hero moment. So that is that. That is Batman 50. That is comic books for the week. I think it's pretty obvious that if you were to pick up one book this week, it should be Batman number 50, which I really I will be thinking about for days after this. Just amazing Batman stuff. And if there is actually one more book I can recommend this week, not a comic book, but related to comic books, it is this book, The Caped Crusade, written by Glen Weldon, who is a book and comic book reviewer for National Public Radio, for NPR. I got this one signed by him. He did a book signing in Brooklyn yesterday, actually last night. So I'm not that far into this book, but there was a signing. He gave a talk. Glen Weldon clearly has a deep love and understanding of the Batman character. And so if you're also interested in Batman, if you're interested in the history of Batman, and if you're interested on his effect on pop culture and the nature of like nerd and fandom, then this should be a great book to pick up. Brand new, so lots of new stuff here, and just should be really interesting if you're into Batman. And that is it for this week. So we got 7 books reviewed. We got an actual book recommendation. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you like this video, please rate it. If you want to, please subscribe. Any comments, questions, book recommendations, any feelings about anything whatsoever, leave them in the comments, and I will try and get to them and have a real conversation start going on there. What else is happening? This week, I plan to see and review Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. So if you're interested in that, please stay tuned. Definitely subscribe to the channel so you know when that goes up as soon as it goes up. And yeah, just once again, thank you for watching, and I hope that you join me for some more comic book and other sorts of reviews.